in the barrel before bottling. So why do we keep it 3 years? To allow the yeast to finish off all what is edible in there for yeast, so that there's no more sugar remaining there, so that it can never recarbonate in a bottle. So we were the first brewery in Belgium to actually bottle lambic. And so historically speaking, it's not so long ago, because it was in 1986, but it was a beer brewed in 1983. So why did we want to do that? Well, you have to know that the Cantillon family, they are also very fond of wines. They know wines inside out. So these guys wanted to make a beer that was fully compatible for gastronomy, because CO2 is not compatible to gastronomy, because CO2 addresses your tasting system and diminishes your capacity to taste. That's the reason why wine is the most popular drink in gastronomy. Because in fact, flavor-wise, beer should be much better, since it's you have much more ingredients, so you have the aromatic spectrum is much wider. But unfortunately, nearly all beers today are carbonated. In the old days, there was never anything carbonated, because to carbonate something, you need a tight container. And people always forget, but in Europe in the past, the only tight containers existing were glass bottles. But people also forget that beer, in fact, was supposed to replace water that was contaminated by sicknesses like typhus and cholera and so on. So beer had to be as cheap as possible, because everybody had access to this. You don't put something cheap in an expensive container, because in the past, bottles were made one by blowing glass through a tube. So a bottle was extremely expensive, only for very rich people. So this was not compatible. That's the reason why when you go to museums and you see paintings of bars, you always see jugs on tables. Because with the jugs, they picked up the beer from the barrel. And the barrel is not a tight container. So anything in a barrel can never be carbonated. So lambic is a non-carbonated beer. But if you put it in a bottle after 1 year old only, it will carbonate in the bottle, because you still have a little bit of sugar and active yeast. Meanwhile, after 3 years, there is no more sugar, and so when yeast has no food, well, it becomes inactive and it has lost its capacity to carbonate. So that was the whole idea about it. And so because the brewer thought that to him it was the best beer, you must remember also that in those days, there were only 3 beers at the brewery: lambic, Gueuze, and Kriek. Nothing else. All the other stuff came later. So there was not all this choice and all this blah 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 about all these different things. So out of all that, the brewer thought that lambic was the best beer. That's why he called it Grand Cru Bruxelles. Bruxelles is the Latin name of Brussels, because we are a multilingual country. So you have to be careful with all these people that always convert their flag into their language into a flag. You see, like Belgians, like Canadians, and so on. And so Grand Cru is very strange, because Grand Cru is French, but it's coming from the very rich world, from the wine world, and so on, and nobody complains about this. So this beer was an instant success, mainly in Japan, because Japanese people have the capacity to understand such a gastronomical combination. Today, for us, it's a little bit of a problem. We make this all the time. This is like our flagship beer, but only for specialists. And the majority of the visitors coming to the brewery, they do not understand this. I have to repeat this all the time, all the time. In fact, we've noticed, statistically speaking, that only 2 nations seem to understand this, probably due to a different educational system, 2 gastronomical nations, and this is Italy and Japan. All the other people, we have to keep on explaining about this. And most people, they don't like it. They say, we want bubbles, we want foam. Especially the French, they know nothing about beer, but they want foam. They are foam drinkers. Foam drinkers. That's why in the industrial beers they add things like alginate and all sorts of stuff to create artificial foam, to make sure that they get foam. Now the Italian people, they love this in Europe. They were the best. They were the first ones to really love this product. Now we try to have this permanently, but it all depends. Now this of course, this lambic may not be the same lambic than for Gueuze or for whatever. I told you, blending is an art, and so this is what our brewer thinks that it's the best representation of a lambic.
As a reference.
Yeah. Yes?
So,
Very good.
good.
Yes.